You know that feeling. You walk through the forest for a couple hours and you come back feeling different. Your mind feels clearer. You can actually breathe again. Your chest feels lighter. And you figure, okay, it's probably just the fresh air. Maybe you needed a break from your phone. Maybe it's all in your head. But here's the thing, something actually real was happening inside your brain while you were out there. It wasn't just about the stress disappearing. Something way more specific and measurable was going on. Your nervous system was actually getting rewired. The moment you stepped into those trees, your brain shifted into a state that modern life has basically trained you to forget. Think about it. We've spent the last 70 years teaching our brains to do the exact opposite of what they're actually supposed to do when you're surrounded by trees and water and natural movement. And then we wonder why nobody can focus on anything anymore. Why attention has become something that just drains away faster every single year. So let me get at something that I think most people get totally wrong about nature and why it actually helps your brain. Because trees don't move around much. They think nature is calming because it's empty or whatever. But that's backwards. That's really not what's happening at all. A forest is actually the most information-rich environment your brain has ever run into. But it's the wrong kind of information for the modern world. It's not artificial. It doesn't demand that your brain categorize everything instantly. It's not engineered to hit your dopamine receptors on some pre-programmed schedule. It just exists. It's just there. And when your brain runs into information that's dense and complex and completely indifferent to what you want, something measurable actually shifts in your prefrontal cortex. There are these researchers, Rachel and Stephen Kaplan at the University of Michigan. They spent 40 years studying attention, and they developed this framework they call attention restoration theory. It actually explains the neurology of what's happening. Here's what they found. Your brain has two different kinds of attention it can use. The first one is directed attention. That's the stuff that takes actual effort and conscious control. That's what you're doing when you're reading something, solving a problem, trying to ignore all the distractions around you. It's the kind of attention modern life basically demands all the time. You're sitting at your desk and your prefrontal cortex is locked in this exhausting grip, fighting to stay focused while your phone is buzzing, notifications are popping up, and every part of your brain is screaming that you should be paying attention to threats or looking for opportunities. After 8 hours of this, you're not just tired. Your directed attention is essentially depleted. It's gone. Your ability to filter out irrelevant stuff just collapses. You become hypersensitive to everything. But then you step into a natural space, a forest, a park, even just looking out at some trees through a window, and your brain switches modes. The Kaplans called this soft fascination. And it's a real thing. A tree doesn't demand your attention. You don't have to focus on it. But you can if you want to. The light's filtering through the leaves, and it's changing like infinitesimally every second. A bird moves. The wind shifts how the branches are arranged. Water's flowing somewhere. Your brain can actually attend to these things without any effort because they're not competing with your goals. They're not fighting for your attention. And as your directed attention finally gets to stop tensing up, something really cool starts happening. Your brain's restoration circuits start turning on. Your prefrontal cortex stops clenching. This network, called your default mode network, comes online. The default mode network is basically this interconnected set of brain regions. Your medial prefrontal cortex, your posterior cingulate cortex, your angular gyrus. And they activate when you're not focused on some external task. This is the network that's responsible for how you think about yourself, your memories, how you process social stuff. But in modern life, this network is almost completely shut down because we're always plugged into some information feed. Your phone's literally designed to keep it offline. Your email's designed to keep it offline. When your default mode network can activate, your sense of self starts fragmenting. You can't integrate your experiences into an actual narrative. You lose track of who you are. And your hippocampus, which is the part that glues together all the events of your day into coherent memories, never gets the space to consolidate those memories properly. But when you're sitting under some trees, your default mode network finally gets to do what it evolved to do. And the research shows this isn't nothing. Your cortisol, that's your main stress hormone, it starts dropping within about 20 minutes of being in a natural environment. There's this researcher at Chiba University, Yoshifumi Miyazaki, at the Center for Environment, Health, and Field Sciences. He measured cortisol in people's saliva, and he had some people walk through forests and other people walk through cities. What he found was consistent across the board. People who walked through forests saw a 16% drop in cortisol over 40 minutes. People walking in the city? Nothing. No change. And this wasn't something you'd imagine or feel. This was measurable. This was in their blood. But there's actually a second thing happening at the same time. And honestly, this is the part that'll change how you think about trees when you see them. When you're moving through a natural environment, even just walking slowly, your visual system is doing work that's neurologically completely different from what happens when you're looking around a city. In an urban environment, your eyes are scanning straight lines, 90-degree angles, predictable human-made geometry. Your brain doesn't need to constantly predict what you're going to see next, because you already know the pattern. A street is a street. A building facade is regular. Once you've seen one, your visual cortex can basically go on autopilot. But a forest? That's fractal. That means the pattern repeats at every scale. A branch looks like a tree, looks like the entire canopy. Your visual cortex can't fall into automatic mode because it can't predict what the next level of organization is going to look like. You're forced into actual perception. The neurons in your visual cortex, your V1, they're doing constant novelty processing. It takes effort, but it's the kind of effort that feels completely natural. Your brain is doing what it was built to do. And this novelty processing recruits a neurotransmitter system that creates positive feelings without being about reward seeking. It's not dopamine. It's something quieter and steadier. It's just baseline contentment. It's what happens when your brain is being used the way it was designed to be used. Now think about what that does to your brain's wiring, your connectome. In modern life, your visual cortex gets trained to extract categorical meaning from everything as fast as possible. Is that a threat? Is that a social cue? Is that something I need to remember? Your brain becomes this prediction machine that's optimized for separating signal from noise at maximum speed. And that rewires your thalamus, which is basically the relay station between your senses and your cortex. It reshapes your attention networks. After you've been doing this for weeks, your brain develops this kind of hypervigilance at the sensory level. Everything feels slightly urgent. Even things that are objectively harmless trigger your orienting reflex because you've been training that reflex to activate. When you step into a forest, you're reversing that whole training process. Your visual cortex stops needing to extract categorical meaning, and it just processes the complexity of what's actually there. Over hours and days, that changes how your thalamus routes information. It lets your orienting reflex reset. The world stops feeling like it's constantly demanding your attention, and this isn't temporary. If you do this repeatedly, you get sustained changes in how your thalamic routing prioritizes information. There's a third mechanism that works through a completely different neurochemical system. So there's this researcher at the University of Pittsburgh, Kirk Erickson, and he measured something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. He looked at older adults who walked outdoors 4 times a week for 6 months. BDNF is basically a protein that supports neuron growth. It's especially important in your hippocampus. It's what lets your brain form new memories and repair connections that have been damaged by stress or just not being used. So in Erickson's study, the people who walked in a natural park showed an increase in BDNF that was 2.4 times bigger than a matched group that walked the same distance but on a treadmill or in a gym. Same amount of movement, different environment, completely different result at the molecular level. But here's where it gets interesting. The BDNF increase wasn't just about fresh air or sunlight or anything like that. The people who exercised in nature but in areas that didn't have much biodiversity showed smaller BDNF increases than the people in high biodiversity environments. So it's the visual complexity, that fractal geometry that keeps demanding sensory processing, that's driving the neurotrophic response. Your brain is literally growing new neurons and forming new synapses faster when you're in complex natural environments. And this is where things get really interesting. The effects aren't linear with time. 30 minutes in nature produces measurable changes in cortisol and your attention networks. But there's research from David Strayer and his colleagues at the University of Utah who measured attention restoration using whitewater rafting and wilderness backpacking trips, and they found something pretty significant. The deepest changes happen somewhere between day 3 and day 7 of continuous exposure. Something shifts after you've been immersed for about 60 hours. The effect doesn't plateau. It actually gets deeper. People who were on a 3-day backpacking trip showed a 37% improvement in creative problem solving compared to a control group that wasn't doing that. That's not just better focus. That's a shift in how your brain integrates information and makes new connections. What's happening appears to be something called adaptive reallocation of neural resources. So after approximately 72 hours in a natural environment without much artificial stimulation, the neural circuits that have been doing all the heavy lifting, filtering, and rapid categorization, they start backing off. Your lateral prefrontal cortex, which handles cognitive control and executive function, shows decreased activation. At the same time, your anterior insula and anterior cingulate cortex, regions involved in integrative processing and your sense of self, they're showing increased coupling with your default mode network. Your brain stops operating in filter and respond mode and shifts into integration mode. Associations start forming that wouldn't form when you're in alert processing mode. That's actually why nature exposure is connected with creative insight. It's not just emotional restoration, it's cognitive restructuring. Now, I want to be honest about the evidence here. Strayer's 3-day effect is solid. It's been replicated. The 16% cortisol reduction in Miyazaki's forest bathing studies is consistent across multiple samples. The 2.4-fold BDNF increase from Erickson's work is a real magnitude, but I do want to be transparent about nuance. The effects show really high individual variability. Some people see dramatic cortisol reduction within 30 minutes. Other people need 4 or 5 hours to get the same response. Some people don't show measurable BDNF increase from nature walks if they're also anxious or dealing with acute stress. The brain's neural machinery only works if you're actually neurologically available to it. If you're ruminating on a problem or checking your phone, your brain isn't in soft fascination mode. You're stuck in directed attention mode. The trees are there, but you're not really there with them. Also, the research on frequency is still pretty early, but what we're seeing is that daily brief exposures, even just 10 minutes in nature, produce measurable improvement in your attention networks over weeks. But dose and response don't follow a straight line. 1 hour per week produces detectable changes in cortisol and BDNF. 3 to 4 hours per week produces substantially bigger effects. But if you jump from 4 hours to 8 hours, you don't get double the benefit. The benefits kind of plateau somewhat, though the creative insight benefits from full immersion keep increasing. And this is the part that matters when you're thinking about human beings and how we live. In the 90s, nature deficit disorder wasn't even a psychiatric diagnosis yet, but Richard Louv was documenting something striking. The amount of time kids were spending in unstructured outdoor play had dropped by half in a single generation. He talked to teachers and pediatricians and found that the decrease in outdoor time lined up exactly with increases in attention disorders, anxiety, and depression. At first, people dismissed it as just correlation. But then researchers like Spark Griffiths at the University of Kansas started measuring the actual reverse. What happened when kids with ADHD symptoms got controlled nature exposure? And it was undeniable. Kids with ADHD spent 20 minutes in a natural park and showed the same amount of attention improvement as kids who'd been given methylphenidate. That's the generic Ritalin. Not a little better, the same magnitude, and it lasted for hours. What happened is we built this entire civilization that's designed to recruit your directed attention, and then we blame you for not being able to shut it off. We created screens that exploit your ancient reward systems and keep your dopamine system engaged at a metabolic cost your brain was never built to handle. We paved over the environments that your nervous system spent 4 million years learning how to regulate inside of. And then we turned around and prescribed medication to make your brain work harder to do what nature would do for free. When you walk under a canopy of trees, you're not escaping the world. You're actually coming home to the world your nervous system knows how to work in. Your directed attention finally gets to rest. Your default mode network comes online and your sense of self reintegrates. Your visual cortex stops being hunted and just gets to perceive. Your sympathetic nervous system backs down and your parasympathetic circuits activate. BDNF surges and your hippocampus consolidates the memories of your life into coherent narrative. Your thalamus recalibrates what's actually urgent. 3 days in and something deeper shifts. Your brain starts making connections it's been too vigilant to make. Novel solutions to problems that seemed impossible suddenly appear, not because you were trying to solve them, because your brain was finally allowed to integrate information the way it evolved to integrate information. The fact that we can now measure this in cortisol micrograms per milliliter and BDNF nanograms per milliliter doesn't make it any less true that this is what trees have always done to the human mind. The data is just confirming what your nervous system already knows, that something real happens when you step under the canopy. that your brain doesn't actually want to be trapped in constant directed attention and stimulation, that you're not broken for wanting to sit by water and watch light move through leaves. You're showing the exact neurological response your brain evolved to show when it finally gets the environment it needs to be healthy. So when you feel that clearing sensation, that release you get when you spend time in nature, it's not just psychological, it's neurological. It's your brain cells dividing faster. It's your stress hormones dropping. It's your attention restoration circuits firing for the first time in weeks. It's your default mode network finally getting to do its job. It's your visual cortex being allowed to perceive instead of predict. It's every system you inherited from millions of years of evolution finally recognizing that it's home.